Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Dynamics 365 Project Operations Resource Management. My name is David, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions during today's session. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Andreea Bunduc, R&D Solution Architect, Mathieu Binaisse, Senior R&D Solution Architect, and Martin Walker, Senior R&D Solution Architect. Andreea, over to you.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining us today to discuss about resource management in Dynamics 365 project operations. Before we get started, I would like to remind everyone about this great resource published by the Fast Track team, the Implementation Guide. It contains our collective experience when it comes to best practices for implementing Dynamics 365 applications. It has a wealth of information on various topics such as project governance and methodology, or more technical ones such as environment management or ALM best practices. We highly recommend you to go through it, and you can find it here at the link highlighted below on the slide. Going back to our Tech Talk, today we will be discussing about resource management, concepts, and processes in Dynamics 365 project operations for light and resource non-stock-based scenarios deployment types. What we will not be covering today are deployment considerations, detailed aspects of data migration, licensing, technical details. However, some of these topics are already covered or will be covered in other Tech Talks which are part of this series, so stay tuned. As for our agenda today, we will go through some initial high-level diagrams and descriptions. We will be zooming in on core concepts to switch over to processes around resource management. We will be ending with what's new, what's coming on the roadmap. Of course, during this presentation, we will be looking at theoretical things as well as demos. Before we actually start, I would like to bring up the architecture of Dynamics 365 project operations. You are probably quite familiar with this diagram that shows the 3 deployment types as well as the components that are part of each one. As mentioned in the beginning, we won't be going into details about when you should be choosing one option or the other, but it is worth reminding that the light version of project operations makes use of Dataverse only and wraps up the project for the web for the schedule management. The stock-based scenario deployment type is targeting the project financials only and is available as a component of the finance and operations apps. Finally, the resource non-stocked deployment type is cross-platform with both Dataverse and finance and operations communicating through to our right. As we mentioned, today we will be focusing only on the light and the resource non-stocked based scenarios, and as such, we will be looking only at Dataverse. This high-level diagram showcases different business scenarios and how different areas interact with each other. Today, we will be focusing on resource schedule, resource assignment, resources in general. For other business processes, please stay tuned and follow our Project Operations Tech Talk series. Zooming in a bit on resource management, and specifically on the process catalog, we can firstly identify two main actors, the project manager and the resource manager, working together to achieve a requirement, booking, and/or assignment. They go through different processes such as generating resource requirements, shaping requirement contours, managing bookings, and so on. Of course, various parameters and configurations play a role on how the system behaves. As for key data entities, we can name a few, such as bookable resources and the related bookable resource bookings, bookable resource booking header, or resource requirements or resource requirement details, request assignments, and calendars. Finally, we can all agree that resources are the most important asset of a service-based organization. Project operations helps you manage and allocate these resources in an optimum way to fulfill revenue targets and reach customer satisfaction goals. In our next chapter, we will be talking about core concepts, and I am handing it over to Mathieu to start.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Andreea, for this introduction. So in this chapter of core concept, we'll talk about resource, but we'll also talking about booking versus assignments, and also for booking allocation. And then finally, Andreea will show you the schema of the main entity. So let's start with the resource. So to define a resource, we need some characteristics and skills, categories, territories, organization unit, location, resource type, and calendar. Except calendar, all the other information are used to find the right resources for your project. Calendar will help you on scheduling the information. I will not focus on all the stuff here, but on this line, I will just focus on territories, organization unit, and location, because for the other one, I will have some separate slide. So for one resources, you can define some territories where it is able to provide some information, and also for organization unit, you have to define one organization unit for your resources. For location, you have three options. So location agnostic, it means that your resource is not taking into account where it's based. Otherwise, you have some resource location and also organization location. So if you want to use resource location or organization location, you have to fill longitude and latitude in the record. So now we can jump to the type of resources. So you have 5 types of resources. So users, so typically it's a user, it's a person in your organization that you need to plan for your project. Then you have account and contact, where it's not a person of your organization, but you need to schedule it on your project. So it's typically a subcontractor. Then you have the equipment. So equipment, it's a piece of a tool or a machine or a room that you need to book on your project. And finally, you have the generic one. So generic one is just used on the project planning to plan your project, but when it's assigned to resources, so an equipment, an account, or a contact, or a user, it will be replaced. So at this stage, we don't support facilities, crews, and pools in project operation. Now we have to talk about roles. So roles help you to group resources with the same characteristics. For example, you can have a project manager, you can have solution architect, developer, and so on. So role can have specific target utilization and billing type. So it will be default on either on the resources or on the project. So if you talk about target utilization, we can define target utilization in the role, but it will be only considered if the primary role of the resources. I will show you in the demonstration. And the billing type will be defaulted also when you claim your time on your project, but you can replace it on the project level. So be careful. If you want to have resources with different roles in the same project, you have to define the role on the task level. So now we can talk about skills and characteristics. Characteristics help you to describe the ability of your resources. It helps you to find the right resources for your project, as also roles and type. We have two types of skills, so it's in skills and certification. You can define the proficiency level for each level, but you have only one which are available, which we define on the organization unit, which will be the rateable entity field. Be careful on the scheduling board, only resource skills are considered. Now, last topic, the calendar. So calendar is very important stuff in the resource management. So we have to define a calendar for each resources, but it will be default by the setup defined on our organization level. So it will create a copy of the calendar for each resources. So you can after modify the calendar and define some specific working days or calendar exception for these resources. So to update a calendar template, you need to create, add, or modify a new resources and then apply it to the calendar template. I will show all these parts in the demonstration. But when also the other point, you can define a calendar template on a project. So if you define a new calendar template on the project, new task will take this template, but all tasks remain in the original template until a new task for the associate resources is created. So I encourage you to test this last part because it's very important and it's very useful. So over to you, Andreea.
Thank you, Mathieu. Now we will be talking about bookings and assignments. It is very important to keep in mind that the concept of a booking is different than the one of an assignment. Bookings are the hard or the soft allocation of resources to a project, while assignments are the commitment of resources to individual project tasks within that project. For team members, bookings and assignments are loosely coupled. In other words, actually, resources can have assignments but no bookings, or the other way around. Ideally, we would expect these two to be aligned so that resources have committed capacity to perform the task assignments. However, the bookings might be based on availability, task timings might change as the project continues, so flexibility is needed. As such, project operation doesn't enforce the agreement that the sum of the bookings for a resource will equal the sum of resources assignments across one or many tasks. However, the reconciliation view, which we will be seeing later on, helps the project manager to see where a resource's bookings and assignments don't agree. Another very important core concept is the booking status. We actually mentioned in the previous slide hard versus soft bookings. Hard bookings are the ones that consume a resource's capacity, while the soft bookings do not. And because we'll be talking later on about hard bookings, let's focus a bit on the soft bookings. They are used to show the intent of assigning a resource to a project. As such, generic resources cannot be soft booked. And because soft bookings don't consume a resource's capacity, you or other project managers can still hard book the resource for other tasks within the same period. You will be able to find the soft booked project team members on the team tab on in the project page in the named team members view. Another concept, since companies usually need to use different names for booking statuses, project operations does allow defining customized booking statuses that you can use throughout your projects. However, these statuses will always fall under one of the three standard types, which we see here: proposed, committed, cancelled, and can only lead to soft or hard allocation of a resource to a project. And lastly, whether you add a team member directly to a project on the team tab or book a resource to a project or requirement from the schedule board, there are few different booking allocation methods you can use, and depending on where you start with, you will see all or a part of them in this kind of lookup. These allocation methods dictate how a resource's capacity is consumed in a given time frame. Some of them do take into considerations the remaining capacity, some do not, which can actually result in overbooking. For example, full capacity means that based on the resources calendar, all the working hours are booked regardless of existing bookings, as such an overbooking. Front-load hours, on the other hand, consume the resources available capacity in a first-in, first-consumed order. So the resource is booked for a specified number of hours, which are front-loaded per day over the specified from and to days. And to make it more clear, if we look here at this example with a front-load hours allocation method, if we want to book 20 hours from this resource in a week, but 20 hours are already booked, our new booking will consume the remaining capacity as shown here in the screenshot. Lastly, we have added some diagrams with some of the entities we talked about and the relationships between them. However, we will not go into details for now. We will be sharing the deck and you can have a look on your own. All right, now let's switch into our demo phase. Mathieu will walk us through resource creation. Mathieu?
So yes, we start the first demonstration here. So in this first demonstration, I will show you how to create a resource and also how to update the calendar. So let's start with update creator resources. So to create a resources, we'll define all the information required for one resources. So to do that, we have to go to the project, then change to resources, then you click on resources. Here you can find all active bookable resources with all different type of resources. You can see contact, user, and so on. So we'll create a new resources. So you can see generic, contact, user. You can also crew and facility, which are not available for project operation, but you can create also. So for this demonstration, I will create a contact. So you have two possibilities, either to create a new contact, either to choose an existing contact. So I will choose an existing contact. So be careful on the time zones. Time zones should be very important because if you have people across the world, it can be complex to schedule all the resources. So one advice to be at the same time zone for all people. So I will save it. When you save this information, you have some other tabs which come in. So first tab is project services, where you can find resource skills. So I will create a new one. So I'll define the characteristics and define the rating value. So I will search, I will choose the familiar one. So it will help me to find the resource after that. Then I will create a resource, a role. So I will create a new role. So I will select my role for this TechTalk and I define as default. So as I define as default, the resource utilization should be coming from the roles. But as I will override this information in the target utilization, we'll take into account this one. Now in scheduling, you have some information about location agnostic here from start and null location. So it will define where your resource is based. So if you take agnostic, it will ignore this information. So otherwise, you can use our resources address or organization unit address. So if you choose resources and organization, you have to fill longitude and latitude. So you have also to fill two important information. So display on the scheduling board, otherwise you don't see this resource, and also available for search. If you don't display this information, it will not show on the scheduling board. Then you have the generic type. If you want to have a generic, you have to define the company and the organization unit. So for sure, if I choose the organization unit, I have to take into account the location if I need it. Then you have the resource territories. On this demo, you will not add some territories, but you can add several work territories. Then you see if we have some working hours for these resources. And then now I will show you how you can create a new calendar template and how you can set up all this information. So to create a new calendar template, you have to go to Project, Settings, And here you have the calendar template. For this TechTalk, we have created a lot of templates here. And the default one will be done on the setup. So we go on parameters, we check the global setup of this organization. And here you have the default calendar. So default calendar, it's from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now I will try to create a new one. So here you can see the calendar template of the resources, sorry. Now I will create a new one. So I'll go to calendar templates, create a new one, fill the information. So I'll fill the calendar template name and description also. I will put a nice description on this information. And after that, I have to use the template resources. So here I can choose either resources, so it will copy the calendar of this resource in my templates, or I can create a new one. My advice is to create a new resource, bookable resources for this calendar template. So we'll say and continue to create my resources. So I will choose a generic one. So we'll not take into account into planification. So I will name it as template for the calendar. I will just save it. So after that, when I save it, I can define the working hours. So by default, it takes into account the calendar of the default one. So I can edit this event, all this event, or this event in the previous class. So here I can add some split or break, depending on what I want to do. So in France, we have long pause in the midday, so we'll finish at mid-30, and I will come back at 2 p.m. So in this form, you can also define the days. So I will work from Monday to Friday. So I'll save it. So now it will update the calendar of these resources. Now we'll close it. And now I'm going on the calendar template and we'll copy, will affect the resource for this calendar template. So now I want to add this calendar template for all my resources. So I will go on my parameters, change the calendar template, use the calendar template for this TechTalk, and now I will create a new resources. So you can see that now the new resources will use the new calendar template. So we'll choose a generic one to be quick. So we'll name it as demo template, demo calendar. So when I click on save and I go to working hours, so it will show you that I have 9 from 5 p.m. with a break in the meantime. So it concludes our first demonstration. So over to you, Andreea.
Thank you, Matthew. So now that we've covered the core concepts, let's go a bit deeper into resource management processes. When it comes to the booking flow, project operations supports 2 modes, centralized and hybrid. We will be looking at them in detail soon. To remember, this is a project parameter which can be modified if the business needs changes. At a high level, looking at hybrid mode, both project manager and resource manager can work together and find and book the right resources for a given project. In central mode, however, there is a clear separation between these 2 roles. Fulfillment of resource requirements is done by the resource manager, while the project manager has the task of defining the resource requirements, accepting or rejecting proposals that are made by the resource manager. We have here we showcase on this slide multiple ways to book a resource when you will be using what, but we will be diving into all of these options in a series of demos shortly. Before we do that, Mathieu will quickly talk about the schedule board. Mathieu, you're on mute.
Sorry. So in this TechTalk, we are showing the new scheduling board. It's not available right now. It will be available soon, but the design and the information are pretty the same as in the old scheduling board. It's, the new scheduling board improves the user experience. So in this scheduling board, you can have the detail panel where you see the list of your resources and the hours of your resources. and also the booking affected to your resources. You can have a map view if you want to consider the location of your resources. We have some filter also with skills, territory, and all the information that I have shown you previously. And you can set the filters which will be applied to your tab. But I will show all this stuff in the demonstration. You have also the requirement panel where you can view all the requirements that you have fulfilled for the project. You can define also some alerts where it will be triggered when the event appears. And finally, we have some tab management and configuration. So you can define several tabs for your organization. So I will show this information about tab management into demonstration. So if you want to have more detail, you can go on detailed configuration and scheduling board. In the other points, we can also make some customization about the scheduling board. So on the scheduling board, you can add some information on the resource card. Here you can see on the point 1. So it's interesting if you want to have some quicker information about your resources. But you can also add some field for the filter because we have some predefined field for the filters, and you can also add some sort option. I will not go into detail also in this information because you can find all this information in the learn and workflow and some samples. So now we'll start the demos of the process. So over to you, Andreea.
Thank you, Mathieu. And indeed, let us start our demo today about a booking method by doing a very simple assignment. So what we will be doing as a first scenario, we will be looking at assigning a resource directly to a task. Be aware that this does not create a booking, only an assignment. To do so, we go to the projects, tasks. We look up the right resource. We type the name to find him or her, and we just add him like we see here. Now, when we go to the team members view, what we will see is that now we have Martin added as a team member with no hard booking, with no booking at all as expected, but with an assignment of 8 hours because that is the effort that we had associated with our task. If we switch to the resource reconciliation view, as expected, we will be seeing a booking shortage of 8 hours. Again, we have a booking, but no assignment. So the next step would be to create a booking as needed. Just to recap, we added the new team member and we have an assignment and no booking. Now let's see other options of adding a team member directly. We will be looking at 2 different ways. First, at the project level, we will be clicking on the book button to open the schedule board. As Mathieu mentioned, we are already looking at the new schedule board, which will be released soon. We actually seen that it is available in some environments, so you're probably maybe already looked at it. So what happened now? We opened the schedule board focusing on the project's primary requirement, and we can leverage that to add a named team member against it. In our case, we added Ricky to our team. This option is useful when you need to get someone in your team based on the field criteria available in the schedule assistant, right? So we can see Ricky here as expected. Another option that we could leverage to add a named resource is directly via the new button. You may want to do this when you know exactly who you want on your project and for how long. Note the start and the finish dates and the allocation method, which is full capacity. So we are looking actually at quite a long period. So if we calculate, those will be around 240 hours of booking that we've actually generated. Back to our project, let's continue our scenarios by looking at the bookings based on resource requirements, which is probably one of the most common way to fulfill requirements on a project. As a first step, we need to make sure that a generic resource is assigned to a project task. Generic resources serve as placeholders for named resources until you are ready to staff your project with named resources. Now we are going to add quickly a solution architect role for our kickoff presentation. After we have added this generic resource and we actually wait for the changes to be synchronized, we can go ahead and generate a resource requirement. Since we are actually now in a hybrid mode, we can immediately go ahead and find a resource to fulfill this requirement. The book button, once we select properly, the book button will open the schedule board, and the schedule assistant will use the characteristics of that resource requirement to find us a resource. So we see here on the left the filters that the schedule assistant has applied to find us Matthew, who luckily is available for the full 40 hours, so we can go ahead and book him. Right, back to the team members grid. Let's refresh to get it updated. And actually, let's refresh again, because what we will be seeing is that the generic requirement assignment has been removed from the view and fully replaced by Matthew's booking. More, we actually have now a booking and an assignment at the same time. But be aware, this happened only because we were able to fully fulfill the requirement of 40 hours. So the system was able to easily do the assignment automatically. However, in cases in which the requirement cannot be fully fulfilled, the assignment is not automatically done, and in this case, the project manager would need to rely on the resource reconciliation to view and correct any mismatches. So if we recap what we did, we generated the requirement, defined roles, we used the scheduling board, and as a result, we have a resource booking. What we will be doing now, we are going to look at how does the system behave in a centralized mode. Firstly, let's make sure that our resource allocation is switched from hybrid to centralized. Right? Now that we have the setup in place, let's go back to our project and let's assign a generic resource like we did before. Okay, let's work a bit on the partner kickoff. We will be adding, like said, that generic resource. We now need a project manager role. And what we will also be doing, we will be changing the 16 hours resulted from the 2 days to 10 hours. All right, now going back to our team member view, we can see the generic resource record being populated there. So we can go ahead and generate a requirement once the changes are saved. Okay. As a next step, actually, what we want to do, we want to update the contour of this requirement. Because we actually do not want the project manager to work 5 and 5 hours, we will be changing the first day to 2 hours and the second day to actually a full working day. This should be reflected by the booking itself. As we have seen in the previous demo, when we were in hybrid mode, we could have just gone ahead and book this and book a resource against this requirement. However, now being in centralized mode, the book button is not available. It has been removed. So we actually need to wait for the resource manager to book a resource whenever he or she will process the pool of active requirements. So with that, I'm handing it over to our resource manager.
So as a resource manager, one of the activities that I have to do weekly or daily, I have to book my resources. So I go to the scheduling board. It's one way to do it. So I will present to you first the scheduling board. And after we'll do the booking that are required for this project. So on the scheduling board, for sure you have a list of resources. Here you can see, and you have also the booking and the calendar for these resources. You can have some different tabs. So for example, here I have filters just on my resources. We are linked to project operation. So if I click on the filter, I can see that I have a filter on the rating and the characteristic for project operation. I can also add some specific resources. For example, if I click on select resources, I can add some specific resources. So I've done that for my project for C. So here I have added some 2 resources, which are Andreea and Alison. It will be, when I save as default, it will be open always with these resources for both sides. If I go on the board settings now, we can have some information, so I can share for everyone, for specific people, or just for me. I can also have some information regarding the map, if I want to use map for planning. I have also some information about the scheduling assistant, where I can find some information about the scheduling assistant. I have also the color, and also other information, where you can define the number of the requirement, the number of resources that I want to display in the form, and so on. So also you have some scheduling types, so you can see the appointment, where you can define where the information are defined. So here you have some project 1, where I'll see. And by then you can have the requirement panel. So by then you have the requirement panel, where you can define some different requirement panel. Here I have defined one for this 365 project operation. So I can select a view. So I just want to see requirement view and only for projects requirements. And can show as default for these tabs, and also apply some filter about territories if I want. I don't want on this one. So here you can see the panel for these 5 projects. So here you can have only the resources, the requirement linked to this tab. On top, you can have also an expand and a minus button to see the information. You have the filter. And you have the daily view, hourly view, or weekly view, or monthly view. It depends on when you are planning. If I click on list here, I can view the detail of Andreea by the list view. I prefer the Gantt view, so I will switch to the Gantt view. We can also switch by day and weeks and so on. We can have books directly a resource here, so I can click on book. Then I will select the days that I want to book. It will select Andreea directly. And then I have to choose the requirement here that I want to book. So I will not do that because I want to use the assistant. You can move some booking, also print the scheduling board if you want. Here you can find some information about the resource and the requirements. So here I have some information about the requirements. You have some legend where you can see all the information about if it's cancel complete or booking complete and so on. Here you have the pan for the alert if you want to define some new booking alerts. Here you can see the maps and you see where I live. And finally, you have the board view where you define some time zone where you book the resources and also time resolution. You can also have some information about show the console. So if I click on that, I will have the detail of all the information and all the book information. So now if I click on expand, I have the detail of the resource for and the booking for these resources. So now I will select the bookings that I have to do, the requirements that I have to book. So I can click on find availability. But I can also select the booking if I want, if I know exactly the resource that I want. So I will not do that. I will click on find availability. So when I click on find availability, it will research on the criteria that it will filter. So I will switch to the current mode. It will be nicer. So I see Martin was available for this booking. So here it's available for 2 hours and you have 8 hours available. So it's okay. And for the next day, it have 8 hours available and 8 hours to book. So it's perfect. So I can select these 2 days. Here you can see that we select the start date and the end dates. Here you can see also that the filter is applied. So we have the duration, we have the start date and date, and by then also you have some important information that you can allow overlapping in your duration or in your proposed booking. If I in a proposed booking, I will not take into consideration soft reservation. So now all it's okay, so I can click on book. But before that, I want to show you something. So you have the booking status. So here I will take the hard booking status, but I can do also a soft or a proposed booking. I will use the proposed booking in the next session. And by the end, you have also the booking method where you can find remaining requirement or full requirement. So if I say remaining requirement, if I already fulfill this part for another resources, it will take into account the rest of the booking. And if I take full requirements, it take the full requirements. So the 10 hours. So now I can also double book if I need it, but I don't want, so I click to book and exit. So now I will send the information to Andreea. So to send this information to Andreea, I will go on my requirements and select the requirement, so the 10 hours, so you can see it's fulfilled right now, and change the status. So I will change the status from active to complete. So we'll save it, and now Andreea is informed that the requirement is fulfilled. Over to you, Andreea.
All right. Well, once Matthew is still busy with processing the pool of resource requirements, let's go ahead and add another one for him. So still in centralized mode, where I already assigned a generic resource consulting lead to my SPR preparation task. Again, if we switch to the team member view, we can see that a new generic resource has been added to our grade, and we can go ahead and generate the requirement. Because it is though quite urgent, I would like our resource manager to have a look immediately. So what I will do, I will make an official request by leveraging the submit request functionality. Okay, I will click on that button and I will add an additional comment for our resource manager. Please find us a resource. And well, if we validate what we have done, we defined a generic resource. So now we want our resource manager to process our request.
So this is the way to book a resources. So to book a resources, I will go to resource and I will go to the requirements, the request, sorry. So here I can see all the requests that the project manager sent to me. So you can see the different status of the request. So I will take the first one, submitted. So I can click directly on find and resources. So it will filter on the requirement that link to this request. So here we have just one resource which are available to do this task. So I will filter, so you can see that it's filtered on 24 hours and filter on all the information linked to the requirements. So I will see, and I will switch the account view. So here, Vasilina is available from Monday to Wednesday the 10th, so I can select the dates to fulfill the requirements. And now I will switch from hard to proposed. So I will propose the resource to Andreea to see if it's fit for her, these resources. I hope so. I will click on book. Now you can see this is sub-booking. Now I have just to go back to my request and mark for review. So Andreea is aware that I have completed, and she has to review the resources. Over to you.
Thank you, Mathieu. So now let's look at what the resource manager has managed to find for us. So we had two resource requirements. The first one is already fully fulfilled. We see Martin there booked now against our project. So thank you, Mathieu, for that. As for the second resource requirement that we had, let's go ahead and see what happened there. If we scroll a bit to the right, what we will see is that our resource requirement now is in status of needs review. So let's navigate to it. Once we are in the view, we can see a new tab popping up, Proposed Resources. We can leverage this tab to see what the resource manager has found and is proposing for us. Okay, what we see is that Vasilina is actually available for the full 3 days, and she is a great fit to our project. So let's go ahead and accept the proposal. Let's add a short comment to our resource manager. Okay. Now that we accepted the proposals, let's go and double check the effect it had on our resource requirement. Let's refresh. Okay, let's navigate to the team view, and now we can actually see that Vasilina is now booked to our project for the whole 3 days. Right, let's let our resource manager know that he can complete the request. Mathieu, over to you.
So as project manager, the last task that I have to do is to close the request. So to close the request, I will go to the project, to the resource, and go to my request. So now I see it's in progress. So you can check it's okay with this. So I can mark that it's complete. So now the process is complete. So I will not see this request in my to-do list. So it's ended this demo about some centralized mode. So now we can switch on resource reconciliation. Over to you, Andreea.
Thank you, Mathieu. So one of the last topics that we have for you today is around the resource reconciliation view. We've mentioned a couple of times before that bookings and assignments are two different concepts. And we've also already told you that this view helps a project manager to view at a glance the mismatches between bookings and assignments. The reconciliation tab shows those bookings and assignments down to the level of the individual task assignment for each team member. Hours are displayed in cells that represent time periods from months down to days. For each resource, the tab calculates the difference between the team members' bookings and a roll-up of the team members' task assignments. Differences are colored either in yellow or in blue. In yellow, we will be seeing booking shortages, which means that a resource has more assignment than bookings. In blue, we will see excess bookings, which can occur when a resource has been booked to the project but hasn't been assigned yet to any tasks. So we will be showing you a last demo in which we are also incorporating other options of maintaining and extending bookings. All right. So back to our project, we have done some further modifications, and let's have a quick look at the resource reconciliation view. We can immediately see that two of our resources have mismatches between bookings and assignments. If we look at Mathieu, for example, we can see an excess booking of 40 hours. So let's drill a bit into that. It seems that somehow we have actually managed to double book him for this project. We have booked him for 80 hours in a week, which is quite impossible for someone to work. So the next step would actually be to remove the unnecessary bookings. On the other hand, for our other resource, which is me, we can actually see a booking shortage of 5 hours. If we double click, we can drill into details and we see 3 hours and 2 hours that have not been booked but assigned to the project. I made an agreement already with myself that I will work the extra hours, so we can go ahead and extend the booking as necessary to match our assignment. So now we don't have any mismatch for Andreea. All right, as the next step, Mathieu will show us other ways to maintain bookings.
So to maintain bookings, also you can go on your project, go on your teams, select the resources, and click on maintain booking. So I will click on maintain booking here. So it's default on your resources. So here I can see the calendar of my resources. So it's myself. So I don't want to modify this period, but I want to modify the end of the project. So I will switch to September. So I will switch to 19th of September. So I know already that we'll be on vacation the 21. So I will reduce this period. So I will switch to just 1 day. So it will cancel the 20th of September. And I will extend the 21 to 22. So I will select the 2 days. So here I have just the information. So I have to select the requirement. So I can use either the generic requirement for my project or a specific requirement. So I will select a specific requirement. So here I have the booking method. So I will take the full capacity. So it will take me the 8 hours for these 2 days. So when I click on booked, it's already booked these 2 days for me. So when I go to my card, so I will select and view resource card. So I can go on my card, select my name, and here on the resource booking hours, you can see that the 22 and 21 are added and are booking, and the 20 is cancelled, and we have no change on the 19. So this is the first way to extend booking. Another way to do that is to go on the project, go to the working hour resource requirement, go on my requirements, go on to resource booking. So here I have the list of my requirements. So I have just 4 hours for the 22. So I want to extend this information so I can show the calendar control. So I will be in a view which will be more nicer. So I will switch to month view and go back to September. So here as you can see that on 22 I have just 4 hours. So I want to extend this time and also move it to 23. So I will extend this. So I will put 8 hours. And now I will select the 23. So I have a warning because start and date are not the same. And I will switch also the end date to 23. So I will save and close. So here you can see that if I go to the calendar control, so to have a clear view, and I switch to September also. So we can see that the booking has changed from 22 to the 23. This and this demo. Mathieu, I see.
Well, last topic, resource utilization. Matthew, if you want to talk a bit about it.
Yes, for sure. I will talk a little bit about resource utilization. It's a form where you can, where it's very useful for the project manager and the resource manager. So in this form, you can see all the utilization of your resource, so all the times that are claimed for this user for this period. If you click on the card of the resources, you can see billable utilization, non-billable utilization, internal, and resource capacity. I will not explain all the formulas, you can find it on the slide. Some very important stuff, it's billable utilization. So billable utilization, it's calculated based on the periods that you see on the screen. And also resource capacity, which also display directly on the form. It's also based on the book hour on the project on the period that you display on the screen. But for each day of the planning, you can see it's red, yellow, or green. It's depending on the resource utilization and the target utilization. So target utilization will be either on resource, either on role, depending on the setup. So now we can switch to the last part. That's what's coming. So we have already talked about new scheduling board. So new scheduling board will coming very soon, but we also add some new stuff around task assignment contours, because at this stage we can only assign some contour about the requirements. You can assign some contour about the task level. So we'll add this functionality in the near future also. And we'll do some improvements of performance for long-running booking, because you see on our demo, we have just done some small booking, so 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And we have see that if we will run long booking, it will take some time, so we'll make some improvement about this part. So by the end, you can find a lot of resources where we have search all the information that we have present today in this TechTalk. So over to you, Andreea, for the conclusion.
Thank you, Matthew. All right, this brings us to the Q&A section, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Hopefully our colleague Martin has managed to answer all your questions. Otherwise, we will stay a bit longer and answer any remaining topics. If we did not manage to do that, please feel free to reach us at these email addresses. Again, thank you for your time. David, back to you.
Thank you, Andreea. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd like your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the TechTalk's Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today.